So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this week's UWEcyber seminar. So we're delighted to welcome back Amy Stokes-Waters. She is from Cognisys and Capture the Talent, and she will be talking to us today about hacking the cyber job market. So she says the cybersecurity jobs market is a tough place for entry-level and junior candidates. Amy will talk us through the current employment landscape, explore the concept of the skills gap, and provide top guidance on how to successfully land your first role in cybersecurity. So that's sounding pretty good to me. So with that said, over to you, Amy. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me back again at UWE. And it's a pleasure to be here and talking to you all today. And it's a very different experience to last time when I was talking to everyone on a Zoom call, I think. So it's great to see everyone back in the university. So first off, just want to give you guys a bit of background about myself. So as Phil said, my name's Amy Stokes-Waters. I work for a security testing or pen testing company called Cognisys, where I am a senior business development manager, which means that I am responsible for finding new clients, explaining our services to them, and hopefully doing that well enough that they spend a load of cash with us. I have also co-founded my own business called Capture the Talent, where we offer services to security testing companies to help them validate the skills of their security testers. So basically testing the pen testers. And finally, I head up the industry mentoring team at Capslock, which is a cybersecurity academy aimed at reskilling people into cybersecurity. And the mentoring team and kind of the program that I run there focuses a lot on what we'll talk about today, which I'm hoping will be, as Phil kindly said, the state of the jobs market at the moment, the skills gap or the perceived skills gap, what kind of skills you might need outside of the technical stuff that you'll learn on your course, so things that will really help you get on in cyber. And then we should talk about why LinkedIn might be one of the most valuable tools that you've got available to you for helping you get a role. If anyone has any questions, I was going to say put them in the chat box, but there isn't a chat box for people in real life. So yeah, I guess message them afterwards, or drop me a note on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn, Amy Stokes-Waters, or on Twitter, which is AmySW_SEC. So let's talk about the jobs market to begin with. So I'm sure when you guys finish your course, that most, if not all of you, will be looking to move into your first role within the cybersecurity industry. And I'm sure a lot of us will remember the advert that the government put out in, I think it was 2020, advising everyone that they could just kind of transition into cyber from wherever they are, whatever kind of industry they're in, and that would be jobs aplenty waiting for them. And I guess that's kind of true. We do have a lot of roles available. The cyber industry does need people from all kinds of backgrounds, with all kinds of abilities, big mix of skills, different interests, different talent. We talk a lot about diversity, which includes kind of gender, race, neurodiversity, what background you've grown up in, because all of that kind of thing helps us to innovate, helps us to overcome the challenges that we face. There's obviously the kind of threat landscape changing on a regular basis. And it helps us to drive the industry forward, and it helps us to fight against cybercrime. But all of the people coming in can't be entry level, because we've kind of had this influx of entry level talent arriving in the industry because the government put out a lot of this messaging. We've got a lot of people looking for their first role in cyber, but the jobs market doesn't necessarily allow for kind of all of these entry-level people coming in. I mean, every week I probably get 4 or 5 people coming to me asking me for help to get into the cybersecurity industry. If those entry-level jobs were available and they were there, people wouldn't be constantly asking for that kind of guidance. So, I mean, a lot of these people that come to me are people that have got a bachelor's or a master's or just got a certification in cyber, but they're really struggling to find their first role. And that's because there is a bit of a disconnect between what the market needs and what people think the market needs. So we know that kind of technical abilities are super important to obtain. Like if you want to be a pen tester, you do need to know about networking and application security, and you would need to know how to run a vulnerability scan or how to exploit some code. And there's plenty of places for you to kind of practice this kind of thing. Platforms like HackMe and HackerBox are really good for training yourself on offensive security. Or places like Blue Team Labs online, they're great for testing your defensive skills. But what we need to remember is that it's our professional skills that will really make us stand out. So the technical stuff, like I said, super important. All the great stuff that you guys are learning at university, absolutely fantastic. But the stuff that we also need to kind of hone up on is the, like I said, professional skills. So I did write a blog on this over the weekend, which you can check out on my LinkedIn profile. And it basically talks about the benefits of having these professional skills, which you might have heard referred to as soft skills, but I really, really hate the phrase soft skills because it makes it sound like they're really easy and that they're not important. And the ironic thing is that even though they're called soft skills, they're often harder to learn. So I refer to them as professional skills because they're the kind of skills that are needed by professionals no matter what industry you're in. So I think the first and probably most important one, and the one that we'll kind of focus on today, is talking about communication. So being able to communicate is integral in any role in cybersecurity. Communicating doesn't just mean talking to people, although that is important. It also means being able to convey information through writing. It also means being able to listen to people, and it means making sure that there's clarity in how you share that information. So if you want to kind of practice some of your communication skills, maybe start off small. So try doing things like explaining concepts to your family and friends. And I know it's always crap being the point of contact for technology with your family. So I work in pen testing sales, like I said, and I still get my parents calling me asking me for help with the Wi-Fi signal, which is obviously nothing related to what I do on a daily basis. But if you can kind of cultivate that patience to sit and explain to your mum the reason why she needs to stop using your name as her password, then you're on the way to being able to communicate risk to non-technical stakeholders. You can communicate remediation, you can communicate kind of what the issues are with doing that kind of thing. If you can communicate those things to, like I said, someone who's totally non-technical, which is usually, parents, grandparents, even, if you've got children, trying to help them, that's a really good step forward. And once you feel confident enough explaining that kind of thing to friends or to family, then a really good way for you to start building up a portfolio of skills is through content creation. So a lot of the stuff that I do on LinkedIn is what we call content creation. It sounds a bit complicated or like it's a bit expensive, but in reality, it's really just as easy as starting a blog. You can do it on Medium for free. You can use the article section on LinkedIn. If you want to get really fancy, you could create your own WordPress website, showcase some like web design skills there as well. Start out by blogging about something that kind of interests you. So I don't know, a bit of technology that you've learned about, or concepts that you find interesting, or an area of cybersecurity that you learn, or I don't know, something that's in the news. So I think Puma got hacked today or yesterday. So maybe like to write about that. Or even doing things like write-ups of boxes that you pwned on Try Hack Me or Hack a Box. If you want to get into like offensive security, which is where a lot of people seem to set the sights, it's really important that you can kind of showcase your professional skills like written communication, as well as your technical ability to kind of, I don't know, work your way through an infrastructure lab or find the OWASP in an application. So looking at things like how you write a pen test report. So like I said, being able to hack things, that's all well and good, and it's a skill that I definitely will never be able to understand in a million years. But without the ability to communicate how you found a vulnerability and being able to quantify that risk to someone, both technical and non-technical, and being able to provide the remediation for an issue as well, what the ability to hack things is, it's not saying it's useless, but it's not as useful as it could be in the employment market. Even when we're looking at things like doing bug bounties, so if you don't want to be employed by, a pen testing company, you want to go and do your own bug bounties and look at vulnerability, what we call like vulnerability reward program things. You need to be able to kind of explain to the companies that you've hacked how you did that, so that they can fix that issue before you get paid. So doing write-ups of labs that you've got, even if you're working on certifications, doing write-ups of those, they always get quite a lot of traction. That's a really good way to show you not only your technical knowledge, but also kind of your communication skills as well. And then sharing that information on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter is really the next step to kind of hacking the job market. So the other super professional skill super important professional skill is networking. So I don't mean the type that's got ports and IP addresses. I mean the type with actual human people so social networking. So I recently did a poll on LinkedIn. I absolutely hate doing polls on LinkedIn. They're the worst type of content. Please never post one. But I did. I went against all of my own tenets and morals and posted a poll to actually for partly for this talk and partly for the mentoring group that I've got, where I asked people in the IT and cyber industry specifically how many people had used their social network to find their current role. And the results came back that around 2/3 of people had used either something like LinkedIn or used their social network to help them find the job that they're in. So how can you guys kind of create a network to then leverage one to help you get a role? So like I said, LinkedIn is the way forward. It's the platform that I definitely recommend using. I'm a huge proponent of working with LinkedIn and using it to help people get involved in the cybersecurity industry. So you can use it to showcase your portfolio. Sorry, I've got people pinging in my ear. You can use it to showcase your portfolio of work. So you can do things like starting your blog on there, use the article section, use like you can create posts on there and kind of showcase your portfolio of work. You can do video content on there, which always gets a lot of traction. So maybe even if you just did a short video just explaining what you've learned in course that day, lots of people don't see it, you can feature that on your profile and it kind of brings your CV to life a little bit. Doing things like commenting on other people's posts, sharing your own insights, sharing news items. One of the big no-nos though is if someone does get hacked, don't comment saying how they could have done better or how their defensive team could have done better, which one of the guys that was mentoring did post the other day, and I immediately made him take it down because we're not all here to criticize other people's security teams. But yeah, definitely recommend using LinkedIn. I mean, through LinkedIn, you do have access to kind of all hiring managers and all recruiters that you could ever need. So if you're not already using it, I would suggest getting a profile today. I'd start adding people in the cybersecurity industry. The easiest way to kind of search for people that are in cyber is start using the search engine in there to search for job titles. So I've been wanting to talk to pen testers recently. So I've literally just been searching for pen tester or security tester or offensive security or red team. And you can just filter people by job titles. So if you want to start building a network up, maybe start looking for people like CISO, security tester, head of cyber, like whatever job title I guess you want to get into, and start adding people from there. So build yourself up a network of people, like literally max out your connection requests. It's what I always recommend to my mentoring groups to do. Try and get, want to be getting like 500 to 1,000 connections that are in the cyber community. And then the more people you kind of add, the more connections you have in common with other people in the community, the more likely you will be to get accepted. So your network can kind of grow organically then like that. Once you've kind of got a big list of connections on there, you can start interacting with people. So don't just message them all immediately being like, hi, which a lot of people do. And definitely never automate any of it. That's why people have emojis in front of their names, because we all hate automation on LinkedIn. But do interact with people. So comment on content that they post, communicate with them, ask for advice. When you do find a role that you want to apply for, maybe find some people that work at that company, and then message them and then ask them for, insights into the organization, ask them about what the role might entail, ask them about the company culture. Literally think of some questions and get some reason to kind of get in front of them. So I had some people applying for roles at a big financial services company about 6 months ago, and the guy was like, "But what am I going to ask? I haven't got any questions to ask the guy about the role because it's all really self-explanatory in the job description." That doesn't really matter. What we're trying to do, we're not actually trying to find information out about the role. What we're actually trying to do is get our face in front of someone who's in that team, so that you're known or you're a known person before your application gets sent in. So basically, I guess a bit of social engineering, because if someone knows you or feels like they know you before you send your application in, I can pretty much guarantee that you've got a much higher probability of getting an interview off the back of sending an application in, rather than if you're going in from cold. So, I've helped about 10 people get their first roles in cyber in the last few months. And it's the one thing that I always recommend that they do. So go and find someone who works in that company that you're trying to apply for. preferably the hiring manager, but you know, it's not always obvious who the hiring manager is. So definitely someone in the security team. Ask them, have a chat with them, say, I'm really interested in this role. Could you tell me a little bit more about X, Y, Z? So like I said, company culture is always quite a good one to chat about because everyone has a view on that. And then when you send your application in, either reference the conversation that you've had or reference something that they kind of said in that conversation. So it helps you tailor your CV and your application a little bit more as well. So when we ask about company culture, people often kind of tell you what the company values are, or they'll talk about, I don't know, like words that they've used in their interviews when they got the job, and it kind of helps you a little bit with some like tidbits of information that you can add into your application or into your CV to kind of help push you further along that process. So yeah, I guess that's my top tips for hacking into the job market. I think as well, if you're looking at, if you're not sure what kind of role you do want to get into, then it might be worth trying to find a mentor who is more technical rather than someone like me who just helps you get a job. But so I'd recommend using somewhere like Cyber Mentor Dojo, where they help hundreds of people get into the industry via technical routes, and they can match you up with technical people in the industry to kind of help further your learning kind of out, I guess, outside of the stuff that you're doing at university as well, which I know I'm sure takes up all of your time. But we all like to have a bit of some extracurricular activities going on as well. And speaking of extracurricular activities, we do have a CTF, which we are launching on the 19th of February for Capture the Talent. All of the money from the ticket sales goes to charity, which is the Innocent Life Foundation. We've got a mixture of challenges, so it's like hosting, home, web app, infrastructure, trivia, cryptography, steganography, which I've been reliably informed has nothing to do with dinosaurs, although I always think it sounds like something to do with dinosaurs. And OSIT, which one? Oh, forensics. So, yeah, the challenges are for kind of people of every level. So if you've never done a CTS before, it's totally cool. We've got stuff that's ready for people who are brand new to the industry. We have 4 prizes on offer. One is a TNPT exam voucher. One is a $100 Hack5 gift card. So, if you want to practice some of your hacking skills, then you can buy loads of cool stuff off there, like rubber duckies and Wi-Fi pineapples. Don't be using that at university. Bill told me to say that. To hack anyone. And then we've also got a VIP plus subscription for HackerBox and a $50 hack.xxx voucher. So feel free to sign up for that. The link is probably somewhere on my social media. But yeah, thank you. And if anyone's got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. So I'm not sure how to ask them. We're in the lecture theatre.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. What we'll do in terms of questions is, if people have questions, put your hands up. I can relay them to Amy, and obviously then you'll be able to answer them. So first of all, thank you very much for really, really useful guidance there, really useful pointers. I think there's a lot to be said about your social media presence, your ability to use that professionally for networking. It's a really powerful tool. A lot of you will probably know, but I use Twitter a lot. I use LinkedIn a lot. And actually, that is how you will discover people, especially so over the last 2 years, how things have been. Those tools really, really are powerful for that networking. And, I follow Amy on various different channels and all the rest of it. And it's just amazing to see, the content that she's putting out, and, and also just different people that links you then to as well. It really is invaluable to be doing that and thinking about how you present yourself.
That was how we started talking, Phil, on LinkedIn, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you were putting out marketing videos, which I thought they look good, made me laugh, and that started the conversation there. So just opening it up to the floor then, if anyone's got any questions about getting into the cybersecurity job market, how you might apply for jobs or anything like that, any questions from anybody? There is a LinkedIn group, yeah, absolutely, certainly for the MSc students in the room. There is an MSc cybersecurity group on LinkedIn, so you should be on there. That's a great way to network with alumni members to say, well, look, you did this course at UWE. Oh, where are you working now? Let me find out how you got there. Again, a really, really important thing to be looking at. Any questions? Oh, yeah, there is one, yep. Anything on CISSP? Okay, so the question was anything on CISSP. So I guess your question is more about the value of certifications, would that be?
Well, this is a topic that could turn into a whole other talk. There's quite a lot of discussion around whether certifications are useful or whether we're looking at experience. If you're looking at entry-level roles and they're asking for a CISP, they probably don't know what they're doing as a company anyway, so I probably wouldn't recommend going to work for them, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, there is value in certifications. They're good to have. They kind of validate your knowledge, but places that are asking for them for entry-level roles, a bit dubious about kind of organisations that do that. People should be looking for kind of qualities that you've got. So like I said, things like your ability to explain things, your enthusiasm, your ability to network. You should be looking at some of your technical skills, but you should also validate those by having a master's course or your degree, rather than having to have industry certs, I think, at this point in your career.
Absolutely. So just following up on that point, you are, it's a classic case that you are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Okay. And if you are going for a information security manager role or what have you, and they are asking the world of you, then you are going to be expected to deliver the world. Whereas if if they are more realistic of what they're asking of you, then it's probably going to be a more enjoyable position as an entry-level position. So exactly picking up on the same point, if they're asking for a CISP, it's not entry-level. Okay. If they are describing it as entry-level and they're asking for a CISP, what it shows is that they don't know what they're looking for. And again, that's something to be mindful of, because the classic example, I remember this from a couple of years back, was when the reverse engineering toolkit Ghidra had just come about, and I saw job adverts saying must have 5 years experience of using Ghidra. And you're thinking, hold on, it only released last week. So that's a prime example where actually the recruiters didn't know what they were looking for. So you've got to do your research and think about carefully what you are wanting to do, because fundamentally you're going to be the one working in that position if you get the job.
Yeah, one of the issues with that is that people kind of, when an entry-level person leaves a role after a couple of years and they're no longer entry-level, the hiring manager looks at what that person was doing when they left the role rather than what they were doing when they started the role, and they use that as the basis for their entry-level job description then, which it kind of skews what the role entails.
Excellent. Oh, there's a follow-up question. Yep. What are the top 5 certifications? What are the top 5 certifications for technical skill? I'm sure if you asked 5 different people, they would give you 5 different answers. You've got to think about what it is you want to do as a job. Okay, not what certification can I get, but what do you want to use those certifications for? I think is the question you've got to ask yourself. If thinking about some of the MSc students I've spoken to about this, if you look at CompTIA as one example, and others are available, you can start to say, well, do you want to go down the offensive route? Do you want to go down the defensive route? But fundamentally, it comes down to what do you want to do with your days? Yep.
Offer some of the best certifications around. They're ludicrously expensive, but they're very good. They do a roadmap. What do you see as your role? Now, there's forensic certifications, there's pen testing certifications, there's data management certifications. What do you see as your role? If you want to go into pen testing, don't do the forensic certifications, they're irrelevant. Now, SANS offers them all, but they put them together in a map. I wanted this role. This is the entry-level cert, mid-level cert, advanced cert, management cert. So have a look at the SANS roadmap.
Okay, I think there's another question down here. Yep.
As a fresher, which role will have highest openings, so we can get into industry? So
So which role has the greatest number of openings? Is that okay? Okay.
Yes. I actually asked some recruiters this the other day, so it's a good job that you asked this question, and I can actually use the information for someone. So they were saying that application security really lacks people, and then cloud security architects as well. So those are the two areas that I would recommend focusing on, because a lot of the people that I talk to, like when I join my mentoring group, I always say to them, if you all tell me you want to be pen testers or SOC analysts, I'm switching group because it's boring. Everyone that I mentor wants to be a bloody pen tester. So yeah, application security or cloud security architects are currently the places where they're lacking actual entry-level people.
There we are. Excellent. Application security, cloud security. Is there a question?
It's with the little of experience I've had with some industry watchers, you find that HRs, when they tend to go put out for people to come, you find that they don't really know what they're looking for. They just discuss, pick out some of these requirements online and put it and say, okay, you have to have this. So as our own field, what are recruiters doing? Those who are in the field, are they actually telling HR, please allow us to do our recruitment because we know who we're looking for? Because we find that when you're applying for entry-level roles, some of the requirements are, you'll be like, do these guys actually know what they're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
So for those of us in the field who manage this department in organizations, what steps are they taking to actually tell HR, please allow us, let's do our recruitment ourselves, what we do, what we do, so that it's very, very difficult to get into entry-level positions.
I think, to paraphrase for Amy, because she may not have been able to hear, the question was really around if there are problems about how jobs are advertised and they don't necessarily know what they're after, what are HR teams doing about that? Now, I think to put that another way, that boils down to what we were saying earlier. The companies essentially don't know what they're after, and therefore you've got to ask yourself, is that a company that you therefore want to work for? You know, you could get a job as an entry-level cybersecurity analyst and find that you're tasked well and above what you can actually do. I think a better way of thinking about it is looking for those applications where they are publicizing it as entry level, and being able to filter, to say, oh, well, they're being reasonable about what they're asking for. And if you recall on cybersecurity analytics, we actually looked at a couple of job adverts that did that last week. But then the other thing to always remember is that a job advert is just a wish list. That is them saying, wouldn't it be great if we could find someone like this? Okay. Now, if you put yourself out there and say, well, look, I don't quite fit exactly what you're after, but look, I've got this instead, that's a negotiation. And then they'll say, oh, well, actually, you know what, you're pretty good, we'll have you. But that's the way to approach it. It's not a definitive, if you haven't got these things, then that's it. You can always try.
I think that's a really important thing to point out for the women that are in the room as well, because it's predominantly women will look at a job advert, and if they don't tick off 100% of the things on that job advert, they won't apply for it. But that's literally, it applies to everyone in cyber, but women in particular. Just go for it anyway and see what happens, because you will lose 100% of the opportunities that you don't put yourself forward for.
Absolutely. Very, very good point. And again, just to reiterate that, people have done studies on this. Men will overestimate, women will underestimate. So women in the room, apply for those jobs. You may well get them. Men, you'll probably, overinflate your CV and all the rest of it, and you'll probably be identified in your interviews. But the reality is, the serious point there is, you put yourself forward in the best light possible, and then it's a negotiation between you and that employer to see, are you the right fit for that organization? And as I mentioned earlier, that goes both ways. Okay, it's not just you saying, yes, I'll take anything. It's saying, I see myself as a good fit for that organization.
The recruiting currently phrases in the advert as PhD or equivalent professional experience. The number of candidates who stop at the first part of that and don't think whether they need the second part is huge. We look at the CVs. We decide who we want to interview, but the advert says or equivalent, not mandatory. You've got to read the job ads carefully.
Absolutely. Another question down the front. Oh, and there's right. We'll go down here and then we'll go up there. Okay.
Are there any particular things which international students should look for when they are applying for cybersecurity job? As I read somewhere, there are some clearances that needs to be taken from UK GOV for applying for cybersecurity roles for particular companies.
Okay. So
can you please give the perspective for international students?
okay. So I mean, this really is going to come down to a company by company basis. If they say you must have SC clearance, then that's that. If you must have DV clearance, that's that. These things will not be negotiable. But again, that will vary from company to company. Again, just to reiterate for Amy, in case you couldn't hear the question, the question was basically, for international students, is there any guidance when there might be particular requirements such as security clearance? I don't know if you've got anything you want to add on that.
I don't think I've got any experience in that area, unfortunately.
That's all right. I mean, as I say, it comes down to the individual companies. If you're going for an entry-level role, unless it's in government, then you may there will be some cases where you don't need that level of clearance.
So look at the criteria for clearance. Then you don't have to be a British national. They restrict the range of nationalities. If you're Russian or Chinese, to get it. If you are coming from Commonwealth country or the EU, do your research. If you're Greek, you're perfectly eligible for SC, as an example.
Okay. There was a question at the top where I wasn't there.
After finishing the master study, how to be a researcher,
How to be a vulnerability researcher. Okay, so the question is, after my MSc study, how can I be a vulnerability researcher? I guess there's a few different things there, because researcher to me probably means different things than to researcher to Amy. So first of all, there's academic research or industrial research. There are two different avenues. But again, if it's industry based, it's looking for the job openings that are available at that time, seeing whether there's anything out there in terms of R&D in vulnerability research. It may well be that that's not your entry level job, but it might be your second position.
It could also mean, I was going to say, it means stuff like bug bounty hunter and stuff like that as well, because they're technically doing like vulnerability research. But you kind of can do that ad hoc if you go and like that red team, or you can vulnerability disclosure programs. So maybe if you want to kind of practice some of those things, maybe have a research like vulnerability disclosure program.
Absolutely. So again, if you look at bug bounty programs, HackerOne, BugCrowd, all that kind of stuff, being able to evidence, and this comes back again to the point Amy was making earlier of having that online portfolio to be able to say, well, look, here's what I've done. Here are my write-ups from Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. Here's my write-up of what I did in my master's study. For all of those assignments that you do, all the practical work, write a blog about it, share it with the world, because then you're being able to demonstrate not just, hey, look, I've got a tick in the box, I did this, but actually you're sharing that knowledge, and that will help in your networking when someone reads it and says, oh, you fancy coming for an interview with us here. And again, the other thing to stress there, and this came up in our conversation last week, I think, CTF challenges and the like are a prime ground for recruitment. That CTF we ran last term, where we had BAE Systems come in. Of course, you're a new starter, so you weren't here last term, I don't believe, but we'll be running those events again. But that was actually a recruitment drive. So
Yeah,
those scoring high. Yeah, go on.
Our CTF sponsored by a recruiter, and we're sharing like the results of the CTF with him. So you can see if you've like done a really great job, then he'll be trying to put people forward for roles because he's got roles that he needs to fill.
Excellent. Yeah. So all of those opportunities are definitely worth getting involved in to be able to find those jobs. Another question?
Which job potentially might offer me the highest salary?
Well, I'll let Amy take this one. Which job might offer me the highest salary?
Sales.
Sales. Yeah, you're probably right. You know.
No, I'd probably, well, I'm guessing CISO is probably the best role, but you can get into CISO via various number of routes. So yeah, I guess it depends which company you work for, how far up the chain you want to get, how much into the bureaucracy of being C-level person you can deal with. There's a number of different factors, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the CISO role, obviously, it's the executive level role. It's, you know, it's well paid.
Off the record, doing ransomware, I heard, is pretty lucrative.
Ransomware, what? Investigating ransomware as opposed to.
No, I mean just actually just sending it out.
Deploying ransomware. Yeah, but needs to be made in that until you get banged up. But yeah, I mean, you know, the CISO is the prime example there. It's lucrative, but I mean, again, you know, if we're thinking entry level, you're not going in as an entry level CISO. If you are, then good luck, because again, you know, that's the kind of thing where you think, hold on, do I want that responsibility at that level? But, you know, once you've gone in at, be it SOC analyst or whatever, and then you find your way through that organization or your ways to traverse across to other organizations, if you want to strive towards CISO, then of course, you go for it.
So the actual question was, relatively, when I'm a starter.
Right. So which job pays the best at entry level? You mean, yeah?
I think someone's actually. I think Rosie Anderson, who came and spoke to us last time, has actually put a thing out on this on Twitter yesterday. So it might be worth getting in touch with UWEcyber Rosie on Twitter. She's got a full document that can explain all of the market insights into salaries. But I will say, if you're getting into cyber for the money, probably shouldn't be here, because that's not why we should get into cybersecurity. We should probably get into cyber for like helping people and stopping the bad guys, not just to rake in all the cash.
Absolutely, no, I completely agree as an academic. I mean, yeah, Honeypot Digital. I saw what Rosie put out yesterday. It was fantastic stuff. Honeypot Digital. Say again. You've saved a graphic. There we are. Ian saved the graphic. It's worth looking at that, and that's actually talking about all the different job roles out there. So again, you know, this goes back to that original point. Follow Amy. You know, get her follower count even higher, and you'll actually. But it's, you know, all joking aside, it's about networking into who else is talking in these spheres. InfoSec Twitter, there is a lot of activity going on there. I use Twitter not for posting about what I've had for breakfast. I use Twitter on a professional basis, and it's a really powerful tool for doing so. But the Honeypot Digital slides were really interesting yesterday. I'd definitely look at that. And I would, again, emphasize that point. You don't get into cybersecurity for the money. You get into cybersecurity because you've got a passion and curiosity about that subject. You will find that, you know, well, if you go down the SOC analyst route, you know, you might be called up at 3 o'clock in the morning to solve, you know, the latest crisis that has hit. Now, you do that because you love doing that. You don't do it thinking, oh, well, they better be paying me good money. Well, maybe you do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. But at this stage of entry-level positions, it's really about, are you going to wake up each morning enjoying what you're doing, you know, rather than enjoying just the paycheck and not necessarily the role.
I'm still here because I'm having fun. But linking everything together, Twitter, salaries, there's loads on social media of value.
Yep. There's a question?
Yeah, how do you handle burnout? Cybersecurity is pretty tax-free.
Oh, sorry, say that again?
Burnout. How do you handle it?
Burnout. Okay, so the question is, how do you handle burnout? Amy, any ideas?
I've actually did a podcast with Dave Kennedy on this, so I will send you the link to it, where he talks quite extensively on how he handles burnout. But I guess it's just making sure that he takes some time away from the computer, get some exercise in, doing all the kind of good things that are good for your mental health, that doesn't just involve being sat at your desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But yeah, I'll share the link to that podcast if people are already worried about that as a the first role.
Yeah, that'd be really good to have the link. Yeah, I think again I might have seen a post about that, but if you could share the link, that'd be fantastic. I think it's an important point to raise. You know, again, if I pick on the SOC analyst role because it's probably the easiest one to do, but if you're being called in, you know, on shift work at unsociable hours, it can get intense. But that's where it comes back to. You've got to be doing it because you enjoy it. You've got to also find a company that supports you in that. You know, like I said earlier, you know, you don't want to go work for a company where they say, right, we're recruiting for cybersecurity expert, and you find that you're the only cybersecurity expert, and therefore you are, you know, defending everything. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. So again, do your research about what kind of organization you're letting yourself into, and that will hopefully help mitigate any chance of burnout.
I do think, though, in the first few years or first few months of your career, don't be afraid of putting some of the hard work in as well, because it will pay off down the line. So there's quite a fine line between burnout and actually just grafting. So yeah, don't be afraid of putting, like, some people have to put 12-hour shifts in on the SOC, and you kind of just do that to get on and move up the ladder. But you know, don't be doing that 7 days a week for 365 days a year.
Yeah, a really good point. Again, you know, everyone wants to get into the industry, but there is hard graft to be had. You know, when you think about, well, the classic example at the moment was the Log4j and the like. If you speak to Alan, one of your lecturers, about Log4j, he will tell you from his industrial experience that it was an absolute nightmare. So, you know, there are going to be peaks and troughs. If it's all hands on deck to resolve something because it's literally just broken at 5 p.m. on a Friday, everyone was hoping to have a nice weekend, but now it's like, actually, you know, don't go on your family picnic. We need to sort this out. It is the nature of the beast at times, but as long as you can counter that with other good downtime, then you'd be all right.
I'll just get a job in sales where that doesn't happen ever. You can just go home at 5 o'clock on a Friday.
Absolutely. Any last questions? Yeah, there's one at the top. How can you get the Hack5 gift card? I believe that wasn't that one of the prizes up in the Capture the Talent CTF.
Yeah,
which
it goes for the first person to get 100 points, and there are some easy challenges you could do to get 100 points. So
Is it open to anyone?
It is open to anyone. It's 20 quid entry fee though.
You've got to pay 20 quid, but it's for charity, isn't it?
Every penny goes to charity, apart from the Eventbrite handling fee, which I can't do anything about. But yeah, so every penny of this money goes to charity.
So there you are. That's how you get your voucher. If you sign up for this, yep, it's got a £20 entry fee, all for charity. But this is the launch event for the Capture the Talent program that Amy and her colleagues are putting together. But this is about recognizing, you know, the different ways into cybersecurity. It's not just about saying, oh, I've got this cert, I've got that cert, but it's actually, you know, and the boot campers all know this. It's more about show me what you can do, you know, actually evidence that rather than just saying, oh, well, I attended this course or I attended that. You know, it's about showing that evidence, creating that online profile to publicize yourself. Excellent. Okay. If there's any last questions, we're coming up shortly on time. No, I think that's probably, we've exhausted everyone on the questions. I hopefully got a little pan around of the room, but if we could give Amy a massive round of applause. I know she can't see you, but she can definitely hear you. There we are. Thank you ever so much, Amy. Do follow Amy on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I'm sure if you go on Cognisys or you could probably, or Capture the Talent, you'll find Amy on there as well. Follow her. She's got great content online, and it will help you develop in your careers. So with that said, thank you ever so much, Amy. Pleasure to see you again, and hope to speak to you soon. All right.
Thanks so much. Hey, guys.
Bye now.